Let's look at how we can use the Ogive to do some analysis or to tell the story. So the goal for these subjects was to have a fasting glucose level between 90 and 130 milligrams per deciliter. So this Ogive has captured these relative cumulative frequencies. So we should be able to find this percentage by using our Ogive. So, but the Ogive is not a function that was put into the y equals screen. The Ogive is a graph. So if I want to trace this, if I want to actually see the patterns in the graph, you're probably better off tracing in a different way. So in order to get an idea of what the values are on this Ogive, what you want to do is not press the trace button first. Let me show you what I mean. So for instance, here is my Ogive. I'm not going to press the trace button first. Instead, what I'm going to do is start pressing the arrow buttons. And what this does is it gives you a cursor that's just floating in the middle of the screen. So what you are interested in are glucose levels between 90 and 130. So what I want to do is position this cursor. I want to position it as close to 90 as I can, and I want to find the percentage from the Ogive, the relative cumulative frequency at 90. So I'm going to press the arrow keys, and I'm going to put my cursor as close as I can. I'm going to put it as close as I can to an X value of 90. So X are the glucose levels. I'm just looking at my X's right now, and I want to get as close to 90 as I can. Well, I would offer that this is the best that I can do at the resolution I have on my screen. So now I'm going to press the down arrow, and I'm going to put myself on the Ogive. A little closer, a little closer. That's probably about the best that I can do right here. Right about there. That's probably the best that I can do. So I'm going to write down my relative cumulative frequency. What this says is 11% of subjects have a fasting glucose level that is less than 90. So I'm going to put that down. So there's my 11%. Now I'm interested in 90 and 130. So next I'm going to do the same thing and go to the 130. So pressing the right arrow, all I'm going to do is press it so that I can get my X value as close to 130 as I can. So that's about 132. So that's a little on the high side. This is actually a little bit closer. This is 1.9 too high, 1.9 milligrams per deciliter too high. This one is too low, but it's too low by about 1.8. So this is actually closer. I'm going to use this one for the purposes of this demonstration. So, and then I'm going to press the up arrow to get myself as close to as close to on the Ogive as I can. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to put this percentage down. So what this says is that about 32% of subjects have a fasting glucose level that's less than 130. So that's 32%. So I'm interested in the people that are between these two. So the difference between these two, the difference between 32% and 11%, that difference is 21%. 21% of individuals then have met their goal. They're in between 90 and 130. I can find out that information by using the Ogive. So 32% of subjects are less than 130. There are 11% of subjects, though, that are too low. Those are the ones that are below the 90. I don't want to include them. I want the ones in between. So I want this 32%, but I need to take away the 11% that's too low. That gives me the 21%. Of course, we have the Ogive to calculate that. Sometimes all you have is the Ogive in order to do that calculation. Of course, we also have the advantage of the original data set. So another way to do this question would be to go back to the original data set and circle the values that are in between 90 and 130. So here's one of them. Here's another one and another one. This one's too low. This one is fine. and the others are all too high. So only four of these subjects have met their goal. So notice the ogive was pretty accurate. And again, as limited as the resolution is on the screen, look, 4 out of 18 have met the goal. Well, that's 22%. By estimating it from the ogive, we got 21%. I'd say we did pretty good. So last up then on this page, something to think about then. We can find the center, at least in terms of the median, by finding the 50% mark on our ogive. So half of subjects, we're looking for 0.5 as the relative cumulative frequency on our ogive. That would mean half of subjects would have a glucose level below the X value that corresponds to this Y value. Notice this time we're working backwards. I already know the percentage, and I want to find the X value that corresponds to it. So I know I've given you the instructions, but this is something new, so I want to make sure that you're okay with this. So to do this, press the Y equals button. Here it is. So the next thing you want to do is type 0.5 next to Y sub 1. So what we're going to do is graph the horizontal line Y equals 0.5. Next in the instructions, it says press the graph button. So now we get a horizontal line at the percentage we care about, at 50%. That crosses our ogive. So the next thing the instructions tell us to do is to press the trace button. But there's something I want you to notice. When you press the trace button, up here in the corner of your screen, it's telling you that right now what you are plotting is lists 1 and list 2. So if you press the right and left arrow keys, what you're going to do is go from dot to dot. All that's going to do is take you from dot to dot, and that's not what we want to do. What I want to do is trace along the horizontal line that I just made. So now we have to press the up arrow button. Notice what happens then. When I press the up arrow button, now up here we see Y equals the 0.5. Now we're tracing along the horizontal line, and we can use the right and left arrow keys then to get closer and closer to that intersection point. That's the value that I really care about. So I want to get that intersection as close as I can to the line. I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good right there. So what we've got here, maybe it's a little on the high side. Either one of those would be fine. We'll call this. There we go. I think that looks maybe a little bit better. So again, this is just an estimate from the ogive, so I don't want to get too crazy here. So I would estimate this as a median of, let's see, 146.8. I would offer that that rounds to 147. That's what we were looking for. In fact, if you entered the data back, you don't need to do this, but if you put the data back into the calculator and calculate the exact median is at 147.5. So by using this horizontal line at 50%, we can get a pretty good idea of approximately where the median sits just by approximating it from the ogive. So bottom line, if you don't like that horizontal line there, the last thing in the instructions to get rid of that, here, if you press the Y equals button, if you have this value highlighted right here, if you press the clear button, that clears out that value, that equation from Y1. If you press the graph button, now you've got your ogive again without the horizontal line. So these are the techniques for using an ogive. In question number 12, given X values, we are approximating the Y values or the percentages from the ogive. In question number 13, given the Y value or the percentage, we're estimating the X values from the ogive. Those are the two ways in which we can use this graph to tell the story about these glucose data.